What's up, Wolverines? I'm Robbie Espin.
Juanchi Tejera.
And I'm Ricardo Blanco. And welcome back to this edition of the Waiver Wire, where every week we'll tell you who to start, who to bench, and who to snag up on the waiver wire. All right, before we start, I think it's only right that we address the situation with Dak Prescott. We've been talking about that Dallas offense all year long, and I think it's important that we mention how it's not only going to affect Dak Prescott owners, but Michael Gallup owners, Amari Cooper owners, CeeDee Lamb owners, even Zeke owners. So, Robbie, what's your take on that?
I think that Amari Cooper, he's still going to be a top wide receiver, but just not as high level as he was. He's not going to be in that top tier. So I would still obviously start him, but you have to consider that he's not going to be the same wide receiver.
Yeah, Ricky, like you said, this is something that needs to be addressed because Dak Prescott was pacing historically for 6,500 pass yards through his first 3 games. And, you know, the record prior to this season, and probably not going to be broken now, was 5,400 yards by Peyton Manning. This guy was pacing for over 6,000 passing yards.
Incredible.
That was a lot. That was a lot of yards to go around. And now with Andy Dalton, we were talking about it before the show. He's an average quarterback at best, and a lot of guys are going to go down. A lot of guys, I would say most of the stocks are going to go down. Zeke is going to stay about the same. Is there anyone who you think this will benefit?
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned how Andy Dalton's the quarterback now. Even though I agree, yes, Andy Dalton at best an average quarterback, I think he's excited not only about Mike McCarthy being a new coach. You know, it's not that Marvin Lewis relationship he had before. Much better. But he has CeeDee Lamb, who in my opinion resembles a very young A.J. Green. A.J. Green ran a 4.5 at the combine. CeeDee Lamb 4.51. A.J. Green 6'2". 6'4". CeeDee Lamb 6'2".
Both explosive guys.
Yeah.
Both explosive guys. They've been doing great all season, and I think Andy Dalton's very excited about the chemistry with them. I think it's enough about the Cowboys. Robbie, let us know who's your pick of the week.
My pickup of the week is going to be Mike Williams. With Keenan Allen out, he had 2 touchdowns on Monday Night Football, and one of them was with Keenan Allen on the field. And for years now, with Phillip Rivers and Tyrod Taylor start the year, he's been a boom or bust play. He's been a big yard player who sees the targets downfield. And with Justin Herbert playing QB, he looks to have found the consistency he needs. And also, another thing that makes him my pickup of the week is that he's on his bye week, which makes him a lot easier to pick up that a lot of people aren't seeing his projection total there.
Yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in on Justin Herbert. Last night, over 200 yards with 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, no fumbles, no nothing. At this point, he has that starting
Absolutely.
role. Lock for a top 10 for the rest of the season.
And with Austin Eckler out, you can just expect that pass game to be more prevalent in that offense.
Available in over 65% of leagues, Mike Williams is Robbie's pickup of the week. It was a great weekend for wide receivers. Heading over for my pickup of the week, Chase Claypool, Pittsburgh. Have yourself a day, rookie, man.
Killed it.
7 catches for 110 yards on 11 targets, 3 receiving touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. That's 42.3 fantasy points in PPR. Absolutely insane. I don't even know, I don't even know how he's only available, how he's only maintained in 8% of the leagues by owners. Big Ben averaging like 250 yards per game at the very least on a consistent basis. Obviously, this is not sustainable. This isn't sustainable, but this is the number one asset in my board this weekend that you got to get him. You can use him for trades. You can use him for whatever. But Chase Claypool is off the boards in most fantasy leagues by the end of this week.
Absolutely. You know, Chase Claypool had a great week. He did it on all ends of the field, rushing, catching, touchdowns all over the place. You know, he kind of resembles what Tyreek Hill was that very first
season. Comparisons to him.
Yeah, a lot of comparisons. I love the comparisons. Tyreek Hill, when he first came in, we weren't sure what we were getting. He was getting returning touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, receiving touchdowns. I think that they're going to use him in a similar way, and they're just trying to find a space for him now in that offense.
Yeah, very dynamic.
Going on to my pickup of the week, we talked about Dak Prescott. A lot of people are looking for new quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo upsetting this year, not doing great. Carson Wentz too. So I think people can rely on Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater has put on 20 points the past 2 weeks. 20 points both weeks in a row. You know, he's been doing great. He has that rushing possibility there. So you can always expect him to kind of surprise you, get you a few points in that area. And I like the way he's fitting into that Carolina offense. He's been doing great, getting the ball to multiple people. Christian McCaffrey, I think we can expect him to come back in sometime soon. And either way, that new running back Davis has been great, giving them like a bunch of receiving yards. So I think that Teddy Bridgewater is your way to go, especially if you've been streamlining quarterbacks or stuff like
100%.
that.
I think Teddy has right now in his offense Robbie Anderson, DJ
ton of
Moore,
weapons.
Davis. If McCaffrey comes back soon, like you said, is there anything else you might want right now? Because Teddy Bridgewater has everything.
Yeah,
He
Exactly.
has everything at his disposal.
everything's there for him.
Exactly. All right, Robbie, who's your start of the week?
My start of the week, you mentioned pass catching running backs. You said Mike Davis, and of course you said McCaffrey. He's out for a few weeks still. Miles Gaskin's a pass catching back that I think that everyone should start this week. He's fully taken over that Dolphins running back job. And last week against the 49ers, who are missing a few players, but still a great defense, he had 16 carries for 57 yards, and out of the air, he had 5 receptions for 34 yards, and he scored a TD. He has a great matchup with the Jets this week, and I think he should be starting in all leagues.
Yeah, no, Gaskin this whole time, at the beginning of the season, there was uncertainty around that backfield. There was Jordan Howard, Matt Breida.
Yeah,
But
he's
I
outplayed
think
both.
I would say maybe from day one, if not like the second week of games, we knew that this was Gaskin's backfield.
Yeah, there was a lot of question marks on how that committee was going to work, but I definitely think that Mal Gaskin has taken over that starting role.
So now I'm going to transition into mine, and I want to send a message to the people at home. Miami hometown fans, let me introduce you to your starting quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick has been just amazing since that week 1 loss against the Patriots. This past week against the 49ers, he posted a 99.1 QBR, the season best by any quarterback and one of the top games we've seen from any quarterback in the past couple of years. He's the number 7 fantasy quarterback the whole season. That's including his really bad game against the Patriots in week 1. So we're talking he's had a better fantasy season than guys like Deshaun Watson, guys like Carson Wentz. He's number 7. And number 3 is Dak Prescott. So that's one less guy. In any league, it's a 50-50 chance that you technically have a better quarterback than him. And like you said, they're facing off against the 0-5 Jets. Put some respect on Ryan Fitzmagic's name. Pick him up if you don't already have him because he's available in over 80% of leagues, but he's my start of the week.
I got to say, I don't completely agree. I want to say pump the brakes. Definitely pick him up, but I wouldn't go as far as to start him. Yeah. Why? We've seen Fitzmagic turn into Fitztragic really quick, really fast in the past.
It's gonna happen at some point.
Here's the thing. Here's the one question mark that I have on Fitzpatrick, which is basically Tua is right there. So if he has one really bad game, he's out of there. But so far, even in a game against the Seattle Seahawks where he didn't even throw for a touchdown, still posted 20 plus points in fantasy.
I agree.
So that's why, for me, he's a pickup and a start. Because if there's any time to start him, it's now. Because maybe by the end, Tua's going to be taking that job. So right now is the time to start him.
I see what you're saying. I think he has shown great stuff. It's just that question mark that we always want to, hold off on.
There's no time like the
You gotta
present.
take risks.
Moving on. Please tell us your start of the week.
My start of the week is going to be Darius Slayton. Now, a little bit risky. He's kind of had a lot of mediocre weeks, but he had 8 receptions for 129 yards. Now, that's just great. He's also been the number 1 receiver except for 1 week where Evan Ingram took over, but he's been the number 1 receiver for that Giants team. You can't just bench a number 1 receiver for a team. Doesn't matter who the team is.
Even if it's Daniel Jones.
But do you trust him? Because week 1, he had an amazing week. He had 2 touchdowns against the Steelers. And then he disappeared for the rest of the year until last week.
Do you
think he can do it back-to-back weeks?
I think that he can give you a consistent number of a good 11 to 12 points, which in some leagues, depending how deep your league is, might be a flex starter or a wide receiver too. So, you know what? I like him this week. I like the matchup against Chicago, I believe. So, I like what he can do. And, yeah, I really don't see why Darius Slayton is not someone that we can trust, being that he is that number 1 wide receiver. It's not like he's getting outshadowed by another wide receiver. He's
not. He's definitely not.
And with Saquon Barkley out, we know that pass game is still going to be very prevalent in that offense.
But he made that Cowboys secondary look like clowns this weekend. So I do think it's a fair play. I don't know if I agree with you on the matchup, but he's definitely a flex consideration from going out from now on.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And let's go to my bench of the week. This one pains me, and you know what, people at home? I hope I'm wrong on this one because I love this guy. But I'm telling you to bench Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon's...
Hot take.
It is a hot take. He's facing that New England defense, which has just been great against the run this year. So that's really like where I'm going with this bench. And you also have Philip Lindsay probably coming back this week.
That's true.
So having Melvin Gordon this week, even though Melvin Gordon has been kind of volatile this season, showing us really great stuff, but also really inconsistent stuff, I'm a big Melvin Gordon guy. I believe in Melvin Gordon. I just don't think this is the week to start him. And yeah.
That's fair.
No, if there's one defense that scares me when I see one of my players going up against it, every now and then is the Patriots defense. And I think like precautions this weekend for the Denver Broncos. If there's only one guy that maybe I'd still consider like starting, like for sure confident about it, it's Noah Fant, who's still coming off injury. But we're not even gonna get into that. But the Broncos against the Patriots, I don't like that matchup. I agree with you. Robbie, tell us who is your bench of the week.
I'm gonna keep it with the Broncos. Jerry Jeudy, he's been a risky play all season long. He's an explosive rookie, but he's playing the Patriots D that you talked about. So daunting, and you also have to consider Stephon Gilmore could come back from the COVID list.
Yes,
the best corner in the NFL could be shutting him down, and also the uncertainty of the quarterback play. You don't know if Drew Lock, he's been injured the past 2 weeks, and they had a bye week this week due to COVID concerns. It's unclear if he's even going to play, but he has season-long potential, but I just don't know about this week, and he has a lot of bust potential for this week.
Yeah, if there's one thing that came out of this COVID game cancellation for the Broncos and Patriots, I think it benefits both teams because there were some injuries on both sides, players with COVID on both sides, which probably will give a chance for Cam Newton a chance to come back, Stephon Gilmore a chance to come back, and on the other side, Noah Fant would have missed the weekend. Right. So now, I do agree with you because if Stephon Gilmore is back, there's no way Jerry Jeudy's getting anything done.
Nothing.
So I have to agree with that bench of the week. No further comments on that. And now I'm going to bring it back to the beginning of the show when we talked about the Dallas Cowboys. And with that, my bench of the week is Dalton Schultz. Why? Arizona, I think, is a neutral matchup. I don't think it's something we hate to see or love to see either. But this past weekend, even with Prescott playing through 3 quarters, he had 1 catch for 16 yards. 25 out of the 32 passes that were thrown by both quarterbacks combined were to wide receivers. Yeah. So CD, Gallup, Cedric Wilson, and Amari Cooper. And one of the other 7 passes was the one that Dak Prescott caught for a touchdown. So where I'm going with that is I don't think he's gonna get much production this weekend. He's tight end number 11 for the year, and I don't know how I feel with Andy Dalton at quarterback. The last time Dalton had a successful tight end in fantasy football was Tyler Eifert in 2015, and he did have a monster season, but he was still with the team 3 years after, and I didn't like what I saw for 3-4 years of Tyler Eifert after that. And there's no reason to specifically drop him right now, but I think bench him with precaution. If you have another top 15 tight end on your team and you have Dalton Schultz, I'm taking the other tight end just to see what happens this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. But this year, the tight ends, not good.
They're not.
You can only name like 2-3 consistent starting tight ends who are going to put up good points every week. The rest of them are mainly touchdown dependent based, and there's not a lot of opportunities to go there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the year on tight ends, there was a lot of hype around it, and then everyone's kind of sort of like upsetted, except for those few names that Robbie mentioned. And to go along with what you said, I do think that Andy Dalton is excited about Schultz, knowing that he has a healthy tight end that he can count on. But this week it is a tough matchup, and it's definitely not the week to start him.
Yeah. So like I said, it's just precaution. If you have a better option, you start that.
Yeah,
option.
Definitely. If you have an option on the same level.
All right, folks. That's everything for us. We'll see you next week on the Waiver Wire.
Juanchi Tejera,
Robbie Espin,
Ricardo Blanco.
This was the Waiver Wire.